Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 13 in this quest for 2000 rating on chess.com. So let's find an opponent here. We'll be playing another 10-minute game. I've been trying to stick with those to speed the game along. So e4, e5. We'll continue with knight to f3. All right, so now let's play the Italian game. All right, interesting. So they come forward here. I guess we will go ahead, capture that, and then go ahead and castle. All right. So now we'll just, well, should we attack that knight? Interesting. We could attack the knight and then send it retreating back. Why not? All right. So that kind of helped us, I guess. Now we can attack here. Interesting stuff. So now his king is stuck in the center. All right, so guess we can go ahead and move there. All right. Well, guess we can go ahead. Well, we'll try that. Okay, interesting. All right, well, guess we have to go that way. All right, let's see what they decide to do next. Probably bring his queen down. Well, okay. Well, guess we'll go there. And then try and bring our queen up here. All right, so we'll bring our queen up. Go there. All right. Well, now we could just retreat back. So I think we'll try that, or yeah, that's the best thing to do. We'll just retreat back. And we do have a mate threat here. So we'll see if they find that mate threat. All right, so they do block that mate threat. Let's see here. Let's see. Well, man, that king is wide open. I guess we need to develop another piece. So We're kind of boxed in here. We could threaten again with another mate threat by trying to go up here. What could he do here? How about, or we have to look for checks as well. So if we go there, there's a threat of check. All right, I think we'll do that. Just threaten checkmate again. All right. Well, wait, now do we have a mate there as well? I think we do. All right, well, that was a crazy game. Man. Okay, well, since it was such a short game, I will go ahead and do the game review and analysis all in one video. All right, interesting. Okay, let's jump into the game review, see what the computer says about that game. All right. So I played 91.1 versus their 58.9. So I think they were so worried about attacking there, and I was just trying to hold back, all their pieces heading in my direction, that I think they were so worried about attacking that they neglected their defense. All right, so let's see. They had a blunder and 3 mistakes and 1 inaccuracy, and we just had 2 inaccuracies. All right, so let's run through this review here. And of course, the computer likes to blast these moves out really fast. So this is the Italian game. And then, I don't know, they brought that knight forward early in the game, which is a little unusual. Okay, so it says here, king to f1 is a great move, but, I didn't want his knight just capturing here, capturing this pawn on f2 if I tried to attack his bishop, and then, of course, forking the king and the queen. So I pretty much, had to move here with this king to f1 move. So I don't know if it was really a great move. Anyway, moving on, they blundered, giving up that knight. And then, we were able to just attack the king. So always remember, king safety is very important, in attacking and defense, both your king safety and your opponent's. So always keep king safety in mind, then piece safety and pawn safety. All right, so that was the end there. It says you really outplayed your opponent in that one. The opening was balanced. You dominated the middle game. All right, so I'm happy with that. I played at a 2100 level. If only I could keep that up, then I would be able to reach 2000 a little quicker, if I'm able to reach it. So that's my goal. We'll see what happens. All right. Opening accuracy 92.2 versus their 88.7. And then the middle game is where they really had trouble. So we played at 90.5 in the middle game, and they played at 39. Ooh. Yeah, so I guess we're so worried about attacking that they neglected their defense, and that's what got them. All right, so we'll go back and take a look at this short game in the analysis. How many moves was this game? So mate and 17 moves. All right, well, it was an exciting game. Okay, so e4, e5. In this opening repertoire for this quest for 2000, I decided to play e4 because it allows usually for more tactical opportunities, as we saw in this game. So it generally opens the center up, gives you room for your pieces to develop and maneuver, and I can always use some practice on tactics. Who can't? So e4, e5. Then I play knight to f3, developing a piece, getting closer to castling on the king side, and also attacking this pawn. So they develop a piece. The knight controls the center a little bit and defends the pawn. So bishop to c4, the Italian game, which occurs when white brings this pawn out, or excuse me, this bishop out here to c4, lining up on this f7 pawn. And usual responses are bishop to c5, or possibly knight to f6. But he played this knight to d4 move, which surprised me. The computer recommends knight to f6, bishop to e7, or bishop to c5 as the top three moves. But after knight to d4, the computer says that that is a mistake. And I just captured his knight, and according to the computer, it would have been better to just capture this free pawn here. And then I'm piling up on this right here. So I'm used to playing the Ruy Lopez, and usually in that opening, when they play this knight here, usually just capture the knight. So that's why I captured here. But apparently the computer says the best move is to capture. Okay. So the computer does recommend capturing here and not capturing this pawn. So I'll take a quick look at what happens if you capture that pawn. I guess the queen could attack you. And then you end up stuck in the center of the board. So we'll take a quick look at that. So if you capture here, now the advantage swings over to black here. If black plays queen to g5, queen to g5, so, yeah, that move attacks the g-pawn, attacks the knight, and the recommended move is to capture with the bishop here on f7, delivering check. And then, let's see. They don't even recommend, forking here. Or, well, forking the queen and the rook. So, I don't know. This is interesting stuff. Something to take a look at. But I don't want to dwell on it too long while I'm in the middle of the video. But this is what the computer recommends. Capturing here, delivering check. So then it looks like... I don't know. Then computer recommends this move here, and then castling by white. So I guess what, you just give up your castling, you give up your knight. So queen captures, now black is ahead. Then it recommends c3. So c3, and if we look at the material, white, or excuse me, black is ahead by +1. So I don't know, but the game here is kind of even, a little bit in black's favor. So if the knight retreats up here with knight to e6, well then, what do they recommend? Rook to e1. All right, anyway, this gives you an idea of what could have happened. But in the game, luckily, after this mistake move of knight to d4 here, we did play correctly. Instead of running into that mess after capturing this pawn, we just go after the knight, which is the best move in the position. And then, of course, they capture, which is best. And now we go ahead and castle. So that is the best move. And at this point, white has the advantage. We have a pawn in the center, but so do they. We're castled and we have a bishop developed. So they just play knight to f6, which is best, putting pressure on the pawn. And so here I wasn't sure what to do. I thought about playing d3 and just protecting the pawn, making room to develop the bishop, or rook to e1. But I ended up playing the pawn push, and maybe that surprised my opponent. So it looks like d5 is the best move. So d5, and then here it recommends just retreating with bishop to e2. But the second best move is to capture en passant, which is what I did. And now, let's see here. Queen takes d6 is considered the best move, and second best was played. The bishop captures, lining up here. So now I was a little bit worried about possible attacks here. The knight jumping in, the queen coming in, and trying to attack my king side. So I play the best move here. It looks like rook to e1, delivering check. And I thought he couldn't, or he wouldn't want to go here with the bishop, because I could just capture, and then if he recaptures, I recapture with check and get a pawn. So I thought, well, maybe he would just go ahead and block with his bishop here. But in the game, he just moves his king over, which surprised me. And this is what ended up giving me the win in the end, because his king is kind of stuck in the middle here. And he can't bring his rook out. But I have to play defense, because now, and interestingly enough, it looks like the computer preferred the bishop move there, which would possibly give up a pawn. So let's see. If we go back and take a look at that. So bishop to e6 is best. If we go back one. All right, check. So here, yes, it looks like bishop to e6. And then the computer does not recommend me capturing there. So that is interesting. So if we take a look at bishop to e6 here, the second best move is to capture. I don't know. I think I would go ahead and capture, and then if the pawn captures, so let's take a look. Capture, he would capture, and then, yes, capture with the rook, delivering check. But I don't know. Of course, this would let the king, maybe move here, and then bring the rook out. And, now black is kind of ahead in development here. All right, so let's go back, take a look at what happened in the game. So the king moves over. We go ahead and push our pawn, but it says h3 is best, which would have kept the knight out. And I thought about that move. So yeah, I probably should have played that. But pushing forward would keep the knight out of the position, but now the knight jumps in here, and the computer says that's a mistake. That better would have been to go ahead and attack with the bishop. But let's go back and look at that. So bishop to g4 is best, developing with an attack. And then white is still in the lead after f3, forcing that bishop to retreat. So after bishop to h5, the game is about even. It looks like white is still a little bit ahead here. Okay, so now it recommends knight to d2. All right, knight to d2. All right, so we just bring the knight up, and then from there we can maybe jump up here to e4, attacking his knight and the bishop as well. But now it's saying that knight to d2 is an inaccuracy. So I guess the computer is not sure. Now it's saying queen to d2. All right. Well, anyway, before we dive too deep into that, let's look at the end of the game here. So d3, or excuse me, knight to g4 here, putting pressure on this h-pawn. So we go ahead and play the best move, which is to drive this knight back, or try to anyway. But my opponent plays, instead of retreating here and attacking my bishop, which is best, he plays bishop to h2. So I cannot go to h1, or he would fork my king and my queen here. So I'm pretty much forced to just go to f1. And the computer says that's a great move, but it's a logical move. You don't want to go to the corner and get a fork of your king and queen by this knight. So now he plays a blunder. So interesting. A blunder move here, giving up this knight. So I guess he was trying to break the cover here around my king. Maybe he thought the queen could swoop in and cause problems. But what he should have played is a retreating move back here. Knight to e5, attacking my bishop. And then here, it looks like, let's take a look. The computer recommends queen to h5 here, threatening mate. Okay, so I see what's happening here. If we go up here, we're attacking the knight. Okay, and now the queen could just develop here. And plus, with the queen here, we're threatening to capture the knight. If the bishop captures, then we capture the bishop. So it looks like knight captures is best. And then the computer recommends D captures on c4. I was even thinking, does this work with queen to c4 check? No, because the knight could retreat and block that check. Okay, so you have to capture here with c4. D takes c4. Okay, so then here, just developing the queen. Looks like that would be the way forward. So we'll take a look, quick look at a few more moves, and then go ahead and develop the knight, and then maybe jump up here and try and fork the bishop and the pawn. But also block this queen, which is lining up here. So maybe the opponent would try and move the bishop out here, and threaten a mate in 1 on f2. Okay, anyway, back to the game. After king to f1, the knight is sacrificed here, but this is a blunder. So it looks like, oh, I had a better move. I captured the knight, but better would have been queen to f3. Ah, threatening mate. Okay. So now we would threaten mate here. Very interesting. Threaten mate. The queen would move up. Oh, excuse me, wrong move. Let me delete that. Delete that move. I meant to go here. Queen to d7 to protect. And then now it looks like capturing with the king, and we're blocking the queen. So in the game, we played king takes f2, which was an inaccuracy. Better would have been to bring that queen up to f3, as we saw. And so the game ends with the queen checking here. We go ahead and block. So now the best move for black is to go ahead and capture and kind of reduce the attack that black has, or excuse me, that white has built up here. So whenever, especially this king being stuck in the middle, it's usually a good idea to go ahead and get the queens off the board, and that kind of reduces the amount of attacking power that white would have if black would exchange queens. But I guess he was, worried about trying to continue some sort of attack, and he plays queen to h4, which is an inaccuracy. Just h5 would have been better, trying to bring this rook out over here maybe. But right now the bishop is keeping an eye on that rook. So, maybe the pawn would try and just continue pushing forward and then be able to get this bishop out here with check. So the king moves back because we were checked by the queen. It says that is the best move. So now they play f5, the best move in the position. But at this point, white is winning already with plus 5 and then some. So queen to d5, threatening a mate in 1, is the best move. And my opponent makes a blunder here. They try to cover this f7 checkmate threat here, but now there's a mate in 2. So if we go back and take a look at the best move in the position, which was queen to f6, now that covers f7, and it also keeps an eye on d8 here as well. But a lot of times it's hard to find moves, the correct moves, when you're under attack and the pressure is building. So after this move, it recommends bishop to g5 here, because if they take, then there's a threat here of mate. And so what is recommended? Well, it looks like to just counterattack white's queen. So here it looks like the best move is queen to a5. Interesting. Queen to a5. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to take a look at that. The second best move is bishop to f6, and that's probably what I would have played in the game, because you capture here. If they capture, well, then you can come out a pawn and break their pawns apart. But this queen to a5 move, I'm going to have to take a look at that. What are you threatening here? You can't go here. because even if the queen captures this, so it says the best move is to go here, queen to d6. I guess you're threatening this attack here, queen to c. Well, why wouldn't you play that immediately? So let me go back. Why wouldn't you play queen to c5 immediately? Oh, because of this bishop here. All right, so queen to a5, and then it looks like queen to d6 would be the best move. Queen to d6, because you have to cover this, cover an attack from the queen. All right, we'll just play through it real quick. Queen to d6, and then bishop to e7. Oh, that would allow the fork of the king and the queen here. Okay. See this move right here? Okay, and then the queen would be forced to capture. The queen would get a bishop and a rook for the queen. So if we go back a little bit, and we'll just take a quick look at what would have happened if we captured here. Well, then that would lead to a mate in 3 with queen to c5. The bishop would try to block on d6, but we would just capture. And then after queen to e7, well, then we can just capture here, and that would lead to mate. Okay, let's wrap this up. We'll go back to this queen to d5 threatening mate here, and so the opponent moved here to cover that, but missed this other attack up here with queen to d8 check. The bishop is covering this escape square, and so the only thing available here, whenever you're in check, you have one of 3 options. Capture the attacker, and that's not possible. Run, and the king is trapped. There's nowhere to run because of the rook and the bishop and the queen. And the only other option is to block. But with this block, now we have either rook or queen captures with mate, and then the game we captured with the queen and mated. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that game that kind of, I don't know, went crazy there. My opponent was trying to attack and got so caught up in trying to continue an attack that he neglected his defense, and we were able to pull out a win. So, what is the lesson in this game? King safety. Always look for king safety, yours and your opponent's. When it comes to attacking, see if your opponent's king is safe or not, and before you make a move, check your king's safety, especially because you can have the best plans and strategy, but everything can be ruined when there is a surprise attack on your king. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to leave comments, suggestions, or even video requests if there's something you want to see, and I will try to get to that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a super chess day, everybody.